Hi fellow readers and welcome on my channel. My name is Marie, I'm 23 years old and today I'm going to be talking to you about my all-time favorite books. I want to start by saying I'm sorry about the bad lighting. My cats broke my ring light, but I left it laying around, so I guess it's my fault. So I broke my ring light. I'm sorry for the next few videos the lighting is going to be a bit shitty, but I'm working on that and I'm going to try to make it better. I realized that there isn't that many books that I really liked, and when I say liked I mean loved. And not only did I love those books moved me, they built me up and they shaped me, they made me into the person that I am today. So it's more than just like loving them, it's like a real connection that I have to these books. At some point in my life they were very important to me. Most of them are French. I think I started reading in English like 6 years ago, so before that I only knew French. So most of these are French. 2 of them have been translated into English. The third one I'm not that sure. And then I have 2 English books, so 5 books total, and 2 English books, one of which I read in French because I read it when I was a kid, and the other one is the most recent one. Without further ado, let's just get into the video. The first book that I have is a duology that I've already talked to you guys about in my previous video about French books that you could read to improve your French. This is the English translation. I just bought it for my own personal experience because I wanted to know how they had been translated and what I thought about them. So I like the French version better, of course, but I think that's not because the English translation is bad. I think it's because I read them in French, and so whenever I think about them in French. These books are really quick to read through, they're really small. I first read them when I was 11 years old. I'd say they were books that I had to read for school. Actually, the first book I had to read for school. The second one I bought because I loved the first one. So this follows the story of Tomek, who is an orphan and he runs a grocery store, and he is bored out of his mind. He wants to leave, but he is kind of tied to the people because he runs the only grocery store and people need him to stay there. And so he's bored, but he thinks that if he doesn't do anything about it, it's just gonna go away. One night there is this girl, Hannah, who just like walks in, and he's never seen her before. She's not from this village. She obviously has been traveling a lot, and he is just very intrigued. She's looking for something special. She wants water from the upside down river, and Tomek has never heard of such thing as a upside down river, and she leaves Tomek wondering about that river. So he does his own research and he finds out that upside down river gives eternal life to people who drink its water, and 2, this river probably does not exist, which is a problem. So he decides to leave everything behind, close down the store for the very first time, and follow the steps of that girl. So I read the first book for school and I loved it so much I picked up the second book, and when I read the second book I thought, this feels like I have been understood, this feels like I have been heard. So this book really eased me and really made me feel okay with myself. That was a thing that I had never felt before. Like I had never felt okay with myself before. I was very insecure as a girl when I read that book. I was very shy and also very much convinced that I was an inconvenience to most people. And for the first time ever when I read that book, I thought to myself, okay, you're not that bad. And like that book just like built up my self-confidence. And it is so weird to say, but Hannah and Tomek are the first friends that I ever had. That's so weird because they don't even exist, but they just made me feel things, you know, and that was the first time it had happened to me while reading a book. I hope I sold this book well. I know it won't mean as much as it meant to me to other people, because I have recommended it countless times over and over and over to my friends, to my family, and I think I'm the only one that really, really loved this book. So I know you might not feel the same way I did when I read it, but it's still a very, very cute read and such a great story. Next up, I have a book that everybody knows, and that would be The Little Prince. I read it quite late. Actually, I was already a teenager when I read it. So I read this one in French, bought it in English, bought it in Spanish. I read them in all three languages that I know, but the French version always stays the best version. I don't have much to say about this book because I know that most people know it and most people have heard about it. And I think it's just a very, very simple story about people that just like come and go out of your life, and it's about the people you meet, the people you won't see, the people you knew, the people you will know. And I don't know, it spoke to me in a time when I needed it, I guess. There are some times when you read a book and you're like, okay, I needed to read that book. That was the case for The Upside Down River, and that was the case years later for The Little Prince. The last French book, I promise you it's the last French book that I have, is Tant, nous, sommes, vivants by Anne Laure Bondoux. That literally translates to As Long as We're Alive. And this author is also very famous. She writes middle grades and young adult, I think. I read all of her books, but that one really, really stuck with me. It's a love story, basically, and I don't really like love stories, but this one is more than a love story, and it goes on like 2 generations, and it's such a cool book. It's about traveling, it's about love, it's about friendship. And when I finished reading this book, I had this longing for the same kind of love that the main characters have, and it was just such a great read. The 4th book that I have is another book that everybody knows, and that would be Harry Potter, the entire saga. This is the English version that I have, but I read the saga in French when I was about like 15 years old. I think despite everything that J.K. Rowling has become, which are not great things, I know about that, but despite all that, I think she's a great author, and her writing is beautiful, and her world building is the greatest world building I have ever seen in a book. And I think it's very strange, but I think what I like most about this book is the community behind it. There are so many people that really loved this saga and are real fans of Harry Potter, and I think that's just like a beautiful thing to have a community and stuff. And I never quite read a book like Harry Potter. I read a lot of other books that were like Harry Potter, but Harry Potter is a genre itself. I think it's a whole thing, and I just loved it so much, just like many other people did. The last book that I have is a book I'm really proud that I read, and that would be Furthermore. I read it 2 years ago because I was not able to understand it when I first picked it up. So I first came across it maybe 5 years ago. I heard about it and I really, really wanted to read it, and I opened the first page and I understood nothing. That was just a too complicated book at the time for my own level of English. So that was my measure book. That's the book with which I measured my progress in English. So I read it quite late, and I found my new favorite author, Tahereh Mafi. I love her writing style. There's something about her writing style that really makes me forget that I'm reading, and I really, really love that. And also I think I like a lot of books. I like a lot of different genres, but I think my all-time favorite genres would be, I don't even know the name of it, but I think I really love a simple book with a very simple quest, and I don't really care for the plot, I just care for the journey. You know, I don't know if that makes sense. It's just like a very, very simple book with a very simple plot, and just like the main character has to go from point A to point Z to just find something special, and the plot doesn't really matter in that kind of story. What matters is the places you see and the people you meet. It's literally the journey, and that's what I really love about all those books that I talked about. So yeah, this one really has a special spot in my heart. First off, I am really proud that I was able to read it. And second, I just think it's just such a cute little book. It's not complicated at all. So this is just like a very, very simple book. Well, it was not a simple book for me because the writing style is very, very difficult. But it won't be if English is your first language. But what I enjoyed most about it is the writing style. I think I really like a very whimsical kind of writing style, and this author really, really delivered. And I just love that kind of stories where it's just like about the journey and it just like makes you travel. So there you have it for my all-time favorite books. I think you might have read some of these books, and for the other books that you haven't read, I hope you pick them up because they're really, really great books, and maybe they will speak to you the way they spoke to me. That was all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on another video.